Welcome, guys, to the Couple Nurses podcast with their hosts, Peter Findero and myself, Matt Solarchik. This is a podcast where we tackle current health news and hot nursing topics, one conversation at a time. Thank you guys for listening. If you find any value in this podcast, please give us a follow, review, and a share. Hit the 5 stars. It helps us. And hopefully you guys are checking out our YouTube channel and digging the vlog that we're doing. We're taking a lot of time to doing that. So make sure those that are listening to tune into that. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing great. Well, welcome, guys. So today we're going to talk about 7 of the most common travel nursing myths. There's a few travel nursing myths that we found out about, and we're just going to try and debunk them for the most part. And I feel like there's no really myths that can't be debunked.
Hell yeah. And plus, we're enjoying travel nursing. We're putting a lot of work with what we're doing and the podcast and all this vlogging, but ultimately I'm having a blast, and I think people have to hear these debunked myths.
Yeah, because travel nursing, when you first heard of travel nursing, you didn't hear a positive thing about it. You're just oh, travel nurses, yeah, they go travel, but they get screwed at the end. They don't make as much money as you think. It's not as enjoyable as people make it seem to be, but it's pretty damn fun, man.
Yeah, even if you talk to older people or family members before I left, they were just you have a good staff job here. Why don't you just stay? It's that comfort talk. Yeah, I'm comfortable. Yes, I have a good job, but what else is out there? Why not try it while I'm young?
Yeah, it's a whole different lifestyle. You may have consistency for maybe 3 months. If you decide to extend, you have the 6 months, 8 months, and a year if you really want to. But it's a constant change, and it's actually ideal because you make good money, and you could travel. And luckily, with nursing, you may technically work 3 days or 3 nights a week, so you have 4 to enjoy. And back in Chicago, those 4 days off, they were nice, but you're really limited on things you could do. And then you just find yourself doing the same thing over and over again. You can only go to the city so many times a year, right? Before it gets kind of repetitive and you really want to go there.
Yeah, not only that, but now with restrictions, it's that much worse. Going to the city is not the same. Partying in Chicago like we used to and having fun, it's not the same anymore.
And actually right now, even though a lot of places are shut down in states and counties are shutting down, this is not I don't want to entice anybody to travel, but this is not a horrible time to travel if you want to check out different outdoor things. If you're an outdoor person, this is probably the best time for you to go because things are less crowded. If you want to go hiking, this is probably the best time to go hiking because there's not going to be a lot of people there, especially if you're going to a popular place. You can go to some cool canyon because you actually be able to enjoy it fully without any other distractions.
Not only that, but during this winter time, if you're listening to that transition between November to February, winter rates hit and you actually get paid more as a travel nurse. So not only can you move to destinations that are warmer, you're able to reap the benefits of higher pay during this season.
Unfortunately, you are losing that family aspect of it because winter rates usually come in the winter, so you're gonna most likely miss Thanksgiving, you're gonna most likely miss Christmas, miss New Year's Eve, New Year's Day with your family. But if you're one of the people that doesn't really have a large family, if you're single, travel nursing is legit. It's not bad. If you have a significant other, it's still doable. It's completely doable. But if you have a big family, say you have 3 or 4 kids and they're between the ages of infant to 12, it's gonna be a lot harder.
Yeah, and that's the reality that we're facing this year. For example, is we're working both Thanksgiving, both Christmas Day and Eve, and that's unfortunate. But at least we have New Year's off, I believe. So a couple of nurses are gonna throw a banger.
Yeah, I've always if people want to switch for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, even in my old job, I was okay with it. My family isn't huge. I see them for the most part multiple times a week. So for me, I'm not saying that Christmas isn't as big deal as as it was before, but it's really not. I see them frequently, so I prefer to give somebody else that time spent with their family that don't really see as often.
And hopefully you get rewarded in the future when you have kids. Hopefully. And yeah, I think that's the only thing that sucks in nursing in general is that holidays are amazing, but it sucks that you get drawn away for the duty of taking care of patients because it's a 24-hour job.
Yeah, but this is just kind of what we expected. We knew this was going to happen. This is the way we chose to go. So let's dive into these myths. Yeah, so myth number 1 is going to be travel nurses qualify for tax-free money if they're 50 miles away. And that's completely correct. That you do qualify when you're 50 miles away from your actual residency. So away from your taxable residency. So where your ID or license says where you live at.
Yeah, in order to reap those benefits, you have to be a temporary worker. So you have to be in a different location, 50-mile radius of that permanent residency. And wherever that is, you are able to flourish the benefits of getting tax-free money.
It's not all untaxed. It's not like our whole income is untaxed. It's not. It's not. That's the false portion. That's the myth of it. The only part that you get untaxed is your hourly rate, your stipends and all that. That's all going to be untaxed, but your taxable rate is only going to be your hourly rate.
Yes.
So that's why people tend to make less hourly, but they get more benefit in stipends, stipends and the travel bonuses that they get.
And those are the benefits. And you could still travel nurse and like work in the same state. You would just be technically considered an agency nurse at that point. So you are just taking a contract from this hospital at an hourly rate. So let's just say it might be like $50-$60 and you're going to get taxed fully in that state. And that might be a benefit if you're still thinking about travel nursing, because you could just get into a dope hospital that maybe you weren't able to as a staff nurse. Then they'll like you, the manager likes you, boom, position opens up.
Yeah, so the only myth about this, so the myth is that we get back basically income untaxed.
Yeah.
That's false. The only thing that is untaxed is our hourly rate. The only thing that is taxed is our hourly rate, and everything else besides that is going to be untaxed.
Yeah. And that goes to like myth number 2, that travel nurses can work at home for a few weeks a year and continue to receiving tax-free money. And that's where the whole temporary worker comes in. So a lot of nurses at our hospital, for example, they're facing this reality that they were in a contract for, it's a year upcoming. And now they have to make the decision whether they want to become a staff nurse, which there's nurses that want to do that, so they'll take the full-time position, or you have to go somewhere for a couple months, take an 8-week contract, 13-week contract away from where you currently are, just so you could continue receiving those tax-free. Because after a year, that's it. You pull the plug if you keep re-extending in the same hospital.
Yeah, that's the law. So the law basically says, like Matt said, if you work at a facility for a year or over, that becomes your permanent residency, not the out-of-state one that you actually have access to and that you live on. So me and Matt are from Chicago, and if we decide to stay in this hospital for 1 year, well, guess what? Our residency is not going to be Chicago. It's going to be here.
Yes.
Because that's basically showing the IRS and the government that we're spending most of our time here compared to Chicago. So what we have to do is we could either, after this 3-month contract, we could leave for a few weeks and then come back, or we could just do our year, do another contract somewhere else, and then come back later on. But it's just a year at one point running. You know?
Yeah, it's definitely some shit. Mm-hmm. And then the third myth is travel nurses make $10 an hour. That's a myth. Of course, you get taxed less, correct? So we get like 75% of our income from untaxed money, which are the stipends. That's where you reap the benefits, and you have a lower hourly rate. It's not $10, it's still lower, and this is where you actually want it to be lower. So some travel nurses think that like, I have a great gross, like, yada, 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 but let's do the math. Like, how much money is actually taxed and untaxed? Because you'll receive more, and that's what you want to kind of push for. So if anything, a myth is like, hell yeah, let's get paid less. If it could go down to 10, it would be, but that's how you're going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, the myth is people think that travel nurses make like $20 an hour, $50 an hour, 25, 30, which is not that much, but they're not looking at the whole picture. They're looking at just the hourly rate. So yeah, technically an hour we don't make a lot of money hourly, right? We make like 15, 20, 25, depending on what the industry standard is for where you're at. And yeah, that's how much we get paid an hour. But we don't get most our money from our hourly rate. We get most our money from the stipends that the agency provides. So if you're looking for a good payout, focus more on stipends than the hourly rate, because like Mike said, the hourly rate is going to get taxed and the stipends are not going to get taxed.
And that's something you can negotiate as well if you're accepting a contract. Hey, like, what can we do about this hourly rate? And I think I was arguing one time, well, not arguing, but negotiating with Arias that one time. I'm like, hey, let's take a couple of dollars off this hourly pay. Give me more stipends. And then I was doing the math. I'm like, I don't think it's worth it, because yeah, I'm getting a lower hourly rate, but now she's taking a good chunk of my stipend, and it's not even worth it when you look at it the long term. Mm-hmm. So you gotta plug and play it and figure it out.
Probably the biggest thing is always look at your gross and your net, because the gross is how much you're getting before taxes, and net is actually going to be your take home. That's a lot of people forget that they see a nice gross, but then when they actually get a paycheck, they're just like, damn, this is a lot lower than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So travel nurses do not make $20 an hour. We make more than that through stipends, through weekly, except people just look at the hourly rate and think that travel nurses only make this little an hour, which is completely false.
It is false. So myth number 4 is that travel agencies needs your paperwork. travel agency needs all of your paperwork before they can work with you. And that's false, because you can get started by just giving simple information, and they could start already setting contracts and information out for you. So they wouldn't be able to submit you to an hospital, but at least if you have like your checklist done, which is pretty simple to do, it takes like 30 minutes, and they have like regular information of what unit and specialty, they could start compiling a list of availability. And then while you do that, you have time to start filling in the paperwork, just so the process is quicker.
Yeah, or even if you don't even want to do these checklists, all you have to do is reach out to True Staff or somebody else. Like if you pick up the phone and call True Staff and ask them how much their travel nursing contracts are, all they really need is your name, your email, what's your specialty, and where do you want to go to. That's literally all they need from you, and they could tell you all the rates within whichever state you want to. So if you call True Staff, ask, hey, my name is Joe Johnson, and I'm a ICURN, is there any contract open in Texas? And they're like, yeah, there definitely is. Can I get your email address? And they'll send you a bunch of contracts. But the thing is, you won't know if you're approved for those assignments until you give them a little more information. But if you're just trying to eyeball where you could get contracted in, all you gotta do is call them, provide an email address, and they could send you stuff right off the bat within hours. Even probably before you hang up, you'll have something in your email address.
Yeah, and because like people have to realize it's like selling a car. So if you come up to a salesman and you're like, hey, I want to buy this 2020 Toyota Camry, he's gonna be like, yeah, no problem. I'll come up with a list of, everything that you need, what kind of model you're looking for, is it, what kind of driver you are. They'll provide it. They'll be more than happy to, is because they make money off the sale. Same thing as in travel nursing, a recruiter is, in honesty, a salesman. Like they're trying to sell you a contract because they're gonna get commission off that. I'm sure that's how it operates. So they're going to be inclined to hook it up, show you some contracts, show you what states, where the crisis rates are. Like information is minimal when it comes to trying to find a contract. So that's debunked.
Yeah, they're trying to hook you. So myth number 5 is travel nurses always float. So travel nurses don't always float. You're mostly going to float at some point in your travel nursing assignment, maybe not the first one or second one, but you're definitely going to have some kind of opportunity to float, or not really opportunity if you don't like it, but you're going to get floated at some point, just because you are lowest on total pool technically, and you are most of the time paid a little bit more than the regular nurses, and you're pretty much more disposable than their staff nurses, because if you're in an ICU and have somebody really critical, they're not going to give it to a travel nurse, because if you look at it, it might be a little bit of liability, because the travel nurse isn't going to know the exact procedure and standards that are expected compared to a staff nurse that has dealt with it multiple times. Like even with like swans, like in my old hospital, we work with swans manually. We push our hemodynamics, we push the fluids, and here everything's electronic. You're not pushing anything. You just get it off a monitor. Your index and output.
And like most like places, they'll like rotate who's floating. So like you'll be added as a traveler to their like staff pool of floats, and it's going to be like equal. Like, hey, whoever's on the unit, when was your last float day, and you guys will all be rotating. And when it comes to this myth, there is a disclaimer though. If you work for Kaiser, unfortunately, didn't have the best experience with that hospital. They're more California-based if you travel there. I was floating a good amount of times, sometimes twice a shift. That myth is true. I'm sorry, that's not a myth. That's fact. Like you float twice sometimes in Kaiser. Like I had a night in Kaiser when I worked. I floated 6 times in 3 nights, and I chartered on 24 patients because I usually had somebody discharged, took an admission. Like they work you for that money, but you do get paid more. So that's just how much you want to work for,
It kind of sucks. I never been flown that much. Even Oakland, I floated maybe 4 or 5 times during the whole assignment. Here, I haven't been floated yet. And in my prior hospital, I didn't really float either. The only time I would float was if I wanted to float to the COVID units. So yeah, so like back to the Kaiser, and Matt's not the first that's gonna attest to that. A lot of people that work in Kaiser, they could probably agree with Matt that you travel, like you get, as a travel nurse, you get floated a lot. Like you're already super on the bottom of the total pool, right? They can just throw you anywhere, and make you work for your money. I'm not saying I don't work my money here. I'm just saying I would not want to get floated so often. And you said you get floated multiple times a shift too.
You can twice.
You go from unit to unit.
Yeah, because what happens is there's usually most hospitals are full 12 or 8-hour shifts. There's older nurses that are grandfathered with 8 hours. So a shift starts at 7 p.m., but at 11 p.m. there's a shift that works from 3 to 8, and there's voids to fill. So they'll pull you, and because you're in ICU, specifically the reason why I float so much is travel nurse in Kaiser because I'm ICU. So I could freaking work in tele, PCU, step down, med surge. I'm disposable to all these units, and they rather hire travel nurses, and then they pick and point, And then next time at 3 p.m. is another change of shift. They could even fucking pull you and put you in for 4 hours somewhere else. Just imagine that.
That's some shit. I would hate that.
Yeah.
I'd be so annoyed. All right, so myth number 6 is travel nurses only get paid 1.5 times their hourly taxable rate. So that is partially true because technically we do make overtime at 1.5 times our hourly rate, which isn't that much if you get only paid $20 an hour. So that comes up to be what 30, which is not very much. But the thing is, you can negotiate in your contract if you want to get paid more for overtime because you want to pick up overtime. So let's say your contract says you'll be required to work 3 shifts a week, but you plan on working 5. Then let the recruiter know, because they could put some kind of a clause in your contract that says, hey, if you work overtime, you're gonna get paid twice as much, or you're gonna get more stipend, or things like that. But you gotta let them know if you plan to pick up overtime. That way they could kind of work with you. But the standard is the law. There actually is no standard. The law says that you have to get paid at least 1.5 times your hourly rate. That's a law in the United States if you work overtime.
So in California,
that's the minimum. Yeah. It's not the ceiling. It's the minimum. So they should offer you at least that.
Yeah. So in Cali, you'll get double time, which is nice after 12. But also, most recruiters will tell you, hey, it's 1.5, but you could definitely negotiate up. When I was in Santa Monica last time, I cranked that shit up to like $60-some plus. I was able to do that, and that's awesome because my hourly rate was so low. But it was like times 3 regular. So you could talk to them and you could, figure that out. There's definitely leeway for that. You could sometimes ask like for a bonus, like, hey, if I pick up a shift, I get paid $100. So they'll do time and a half or whatever extra and plus $100. So you could play with it, man. And that goes directly into myth number 7, which is most nurses get ripped off when it comes to this. Yeah, if you get taken advantage, because I'm pretty sure me and Peter had our fair share that our first contract we took, we got kind of rushed into it. It was only 8 weeks. We felt comfortable because we didn't want to do it for 13. Remember that shit? And we kind of thought about it. It was actually a crisis rate contract because they really needed us. But yet we got shoved a regular price because we were completely new to travel nursing.
That's shit.
So yeah, you got to be careful. But also, double-edged sword. Then you could ask your recruiter for travel bonus. If you're going in between contracts, they'll pay you maybe $500. Just depends. $250. Sometimes you could buy some scrubs. They reimburse you for that. Your ACL classes. So there's little ways to gain money as you're going in between contracts, so you could benefit.
It is the business of sales, guys. So there's gonna be some recruiters out there that are gonna try and take advantage of you. They might promise you things that they can't really deliver on. So yeah, there is gonna be those kind of instances, but that's kind of how it is with any kind of sales position. If you have a good recruiter and if they're smart, that's not good for longevity purposes. So most people are not going to try and screw you over as a nurse, especially because you're a healthcare worker. And plus, if the recruiter screws you over, guess what? You're not going to come back to the company. That person is losing you basically off for another contract. If they screw you over with the first contract, you're not going to come back to them, right? So you're not going to pay them any more if you extend it, because you're not going to extend it with them anymore.
Yeah.
Like that, you had a pretty bad experience too with somebody, and you didn't want to go with them again. That's bad for business.
Yeah, I basically fired the recruiter mid-shift because I was like, I'm tired of this.
Yeah, dude, and that's not good for anybody. The company's gonna not sustain itself, because if you keep screwing people over, then that's bad reputation.
Yeah.
No one's want to come back. You might get one person, 2 people, but you're not going to retain them at all. Your retention rate's gonna be horrible. Because you're just screwing people over for just so a quick income.
Yeah, and that's why True Staff is solid, because they have high retention rates for that fact that the recruiters usually don't play, right? And if you are a travel nurse that's listening and maybe you're like, damn, should I accept this contract? Send us a DM on Instagram and we'll review your contract for you. So we'll let you know how it actually looks. And if not, you could also come to the dark side with us and check out our awesome recruiter that we have. Yeah. I like Kendall, man.
True has been great for us. They're sending us some cool hoodies, and Kendall's always on point.
Yeah, we have this old military guy, and he's a Marine. He's just straight business. He handles things. If I need something, some information, I know it's gonna get handled by him. And that's the recruiter that you want. Not that you're bugging him about 2-3 things on a task list. Next week goes on, and I'm like, hey, how was it? Because sometimes you don't follow up every day with your recruiter. That relationship, sometimes you'll hit him up every other day. if you're, starting a contract, signing on, you'll be talking more. But in between contracts or during your contract, you're going to like send a text once a week, how are you and stuff. And it's annoying when you have that recruiter that you told them something to do last week. Week goes by, hey, did you do this? Oh yeah, I'll get it done now. That's annoying. It doesn't happen with Kendall, and I love it.
Yeah, like the standard turnover rate for like messaging your recruiter or something, it's like 24 hours, but Kendall just gets it the same day. Like if we message him in the morning, he responds at least by noon. He's straight busy. He's straight onto it, and yeah, and he likes our vlogs too, so it's pretty cool.
I know, like, is that funny when you can mess around with them? And that's like the relationship you want to build with your recruiter. Like you don't want it to somebody, like that's why like you could review a recruiter and be like, you know what, probably won't like this person. Because if you're annoyed by him already as a person, it's only going to add stress on as you're, in your contract when you got to handle stuff. So make sure it has like somewhat the same personality and your needs. And that's like the cool thing that like with True Staff, we're able to kind of like say, hey, this is what I like. I remember Frank, he's like, hey, I got just a guy for you guys. We've met him just this contract was our first time, and I freaking love him, man. It's cool.
Yeah, it's legit. Great experience with True Staff. Definitely better than Total Med. But
yeah.
Sure. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We just shared with you the 7 most common travel nursing tips. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
The myths, remember?
Oh yeah, no tips this time.
Yeah, it's just myths.
We did an episode with myth and tips, so this is just. But we did offer some tips.
We did, of course. We're always dropping value bombs,
yeah,
bro.
Straight business. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you got the vlog. Monday, every Monday, you get a new vlog for you guys. We're here in California enjoying this. We're going to do a bunch of cool shit, so stay tuned. And we're going to have Patreon up in the near future. Hopefully this time within a few weeks. So by a few weeks, we mean hopefully like by the end of the month.
Next week, man, because I'm going to be on top of it. Mm-hmm. Stop saying that month shit. I'm done with that.
Okay, Matthew.
I spoke. Later, guys. Bye.